Good evening, excellency ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. Today we have an opportunity to discuss once again to something quite predictable, which is the economy in Cambodia, and also in the context of Cambodian chairing the ASEAN for this year. Many things will happen, a lot of economic opportunity. The country is actually, the economy is bustling, things are moving. But underlining all this economic growth, all this economic activity is all boils down to the issue of money, of credit, of finance. And tonight I have the pleasure to have a good friend, Chea Serey. She is the Deputy Director General of the National Bank of Cambodia, NBC, and we're going to be covering an issue of the Credit Bureau, the newly established Credit Bureau of Cambodia. We'll be talking a bit about the banking development in the country. So something's quite exciting, and that's something that I really look forward to have a good dialogue. So Serey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we go on, maybe I give you a minute, right, to let you share a bit to the audience, your background a bit, your education, your job,
I was educated in France from intermediary to high school.
So you speak French, vous parlez français?
Oui, je parle français.
Super.
And I then graduated from the University of Victoria University of New Zealand, and then I have an MBA from London University. But in the meantime, I also have studied in Singapore, in New Zealand, in Australia, and France, obviously.
So it's quite a broad spectrum of international exposure.
One can say.
Yeah. And your job?
I joined the National Bank of Cambodia about 12 years ago.
Oh, you don't look that old.
Thank you. And I'm now, as you mentioned earlier, Deputy Director General at the National Bank of Cambodia, and I'm in charge of banking supervision.
I see. Perhaps maybe to set the tone a bit, the economy is doing very well, the banking sector is doing well. Perhaps you can share a bit the latest update on the banking sector, its growth, its prospect, its challenge.
Well, the Cambodian banking sector is growing quite significantly since the past 12 years. We have a restructuring program in 2000 where we have seen 17 banks close down. And now altogether we have about 33 commercial banks plus about 27 microfinance. In the past few years, we have seen a lot of interest from the international banks such as Bank of China, ICBC,
yes,
and other banks from the regions having interest to set up a presence in Cambodia.
Yeah. So the banking sector is healthy, if I could say.
One can say it's very healthy. It's under regular supervisions, yes, by the National Bank of Cambodia. So we do supervise them on a daily basis through their reportings to us, but also we do went and audit them on site to see how they're doing financially and in terms of their corporate governance as well.
Yeah. So in the context of the securing new source of growth for the country, it depends a lot on the ability of not only the Cambodian investor but also the foreign investor, the foreign businessman, the Cambodian businessman to access to credit, right? How easy it is for a businessman to borrow?
We have now 30 something banks plus microfinance, yes, and yet there's now only about 10% of the total population that have access to formal financial services. So there's a huge gap to be filling there. In terms of getting access to finance, first of all, you have to know your customer,
yes,
which is very difficult in Cambodia. Even companies do not have proper audited account or not even just proper accounting record. So for banks to be able to give them lending, it is quite difficult because it is similar to when you go for money lender. You have to know the person, who they are, whether they're related to someone that you know or something before you lend. It's the same when you go to a bank. You have to know who your customer is. And in Cambodia, it's quite difficult. So 90% of our loans are done on a secured basis. That means that you have to have collaterals. You have to have a house or land to pledge to the bank before they can lend it to you. Which is quite difficult for new businesses who don't have these kind of asset to put as pledge. So I think moving forward, we need a different infrastructure in order to encourage banks to be able to lend to people who are entrepreneurs, who has good ideas in business and so on, but who are not able to have to pledge collaterals.
And it's probably in this context that I probably would ask you more in your other hat, where you at the same time as the chairman of the board of the newly established Credit Bureau of Cambodia. Right? So why are you interested, in seeing that institution there? I mean, the fact that you've been elected as chair, it shows your belief, in that. But foremost, why a credit bureau?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the problem of bank not giving loan to some of the companies or some of the individuals is because they don't know who these people are. So the private sector, meaning the bankers associations and the microfinance association, have decided to set up a private credit bureau.
Okay.
And what is the credit bureau? It's actually a centralized database where where bank would feed in their client information into database, and so whenever a bank want to lend to someone, another bank want to lend to somebody, they can always go to this database and check whether this person has been a good borrowers, whether they pay regularly, or whether they have past experience in terms of borrowing with another institutions. So that would give banks an idea of who their customer.
So sort of credit history.
Yeah, it's a credit history of the client.
Yes.
So it's easier for them to. It's actually, if this report shows a good reports about the client, bank can actually lend without collaterals.
Yes.
Because they know who you are, they know that you are good borrowers, they know your past behavior, and they can actually even lend you at a much lower rate than the.
So it's a risk, sort of like mitigating, sort of like instrument.
Yes.
Right?
It's it helps banks to be able to know their customer better.
Yeah.
At the same time, it also helps the customer to have a tool to negotiate with the banks.
Yeah, this is something quite new. You think that the population, the Cambodian, I think for foreign business they're used to it, right? In America, in Europe, of course, it's a normal practice. You go to borrow money from a bank, or you go and buy a car or lease a car, they will run a credit check for you right away, and they can tell you right away that you qualify, you're not qualify, you're high risk or not. But in the case of Cambodia, since this is such a new instrument, how much do you think the businessmen are willing? Because they may say, oh my God, you're checking my history or something. How does it work?
This is new, not only for Cambodia, I think for a lot of places it is new as well. For the informations that will be feeding into that database need to have prior consent of the customer.
Yes.
So the customer need to approve the bank to feed that in. Banks cannot do it without
unilaterally.
So of course, if you don't give consent, you won't get a loan. So therefore, you have to.
You have to give consent. It's I see your point.
Also, we through our regulation, we make sure that consumers have a right to verify their information.
Yes.
So once a year, they are able to get a free report from the credit bureau.
Okay.
Check whether whatever information that bank feeds in about them are true and correct.
Yes. Yes.
And if there is any discrepancy, they can always go back to the credit bureau or to the bank and complaints about
I
it.
see,
And
I see.
banks and credit bureau have 10 days to rectify those informations.
I see. And the credit bureau is regulated by the central bank.
It is regulated by the central bank.
So in a way, if I'm the public, I will feel reassured that even though the credit bureau is operating as a private entity, it has a supervision of a state entity.
Yes.
So that give me the confidence that it will not be abused.
No, we also make sure that only banks can have access
Yes.
to your information,
Uh-huh.
and only banks with whom you have business with.
Yes.
Can
By
have
bank, you mean
access.
including also microfinance?
Banks
yes.
and all the
yes.
financial
Yes,
institutions.
financial institution. Yes.
So not anyone can have access to your
Yes.
information, not even your family's member or your spouse.
Okay.
In order to verify your information, you have to come up with a proof of identity.
Yes.
Only then we would provide
I see.
the
I see.
report to you.
I hope it's free or it's not free. There's a cost for it, right?
Once a year, it is free.
Okay.
But when you go and want credit facility from banks would have the
Yes.
obligation to
Yes.
check that report. And of course, bank will have to pay for that report.
Yes, yes, indeed. I think you mentioned a bit earlier that the ability of bank to lend without having access to collateral. I concur with you 1,000%, because up to now, what is constraining the growth of our economy is the ability of our borrower to borrow, but because it's so dependent on collateral, on their house, on their land, everything, they're limited, right? And to me, to take the Cambodian economy to the next level, our people, the business, the local mom and pop company, whatever, they have to have access to a higher level amount of credit. And that's why I think it's important that 2015, which is 3 years from now, Cambodia will be part of the ASEAN Economic Community. There's going to be a lot of economic transaction and more people coming from abroad. We are going abroad. So it all boils down to, do you have money? Do you have access to finance? So this is something, a very good initiative that the central bank is pushing. Where are you now on the credit bureau?
Well, the credit bureau would be launched in February.
Okay,
So-
next month. Wow.
Yes, will be end of next month. So by the end of next month, all the financial institutions under the NBC purview will have to check their borrowers' credit information
Oh,
before
beautiful.
they can lend.
Yes, yeah.
And actually, I concur with you on the importance of access to finance. There's actually a study that I have just read from the World Bank.
Yeah.
And it showed that there's a strong correlation between access to finance and economic development.
Yes.
So therefore, access to finance is something that is very dear to the NBC. We do encourage that through the creation of Credit Bureau. We also encourage the development of the microfinance, because
Yes.
only microfinance institutions really goes into the very remote area.
Exactly the roots. Yeah.
And they have
Touching
this
on the
strong
SME.
Yes, as SME as well. The microfinance, despite the name micro, they do also finance the SME.
Yes.
And Credit Bureau would be a very good infrastructure to encourage more SME. Also, it would, I think, it would also be able to attract a lot of foreign direct investment from overseas, in the sense that it would provide transparent
Yes.
data
You're right.
on the health of the financial system, on the good lending practice of the country.
Yeah, I think I like the word that you just mentioned, transparency. At the end of the day, bank is all about risk. Capital, I think there was some quote that capital is very shy. It only flow to a place where they feel protected. But putting into a more concrete term, right? So because sometimes for a new concept like this that is not exist in Cambodia yet, perhaps I could throw a practical example. For example, something that's very dear to me, which is the rice policy, where like Prime Minister Hun Sen has made it as a national priority that we have to achieve 1 million ton of export, by 2015. So 1 million ton, if you multiply by an average cost to acquire paddy of $300, for example, you're talking about 1 million multiplied by $300 million just to go buy the paddy. And then you have the trade, international trade and transaction, people open an LC, letter of credit. So many things is evolved, but the bottom line is what? Who has the finance? Who have the money? So here, maybe with the credit bureau, good borrower could actually borrow more money without having to say, oh my God, that's all I have, this land, and I can only borrow 200,000 here. Look, if I have a letter of credit from a buyer from the Philippines or from France for $2 million of rice export, I could go to the bank to say, look, my credit's good. You guys should lend me more. Is that a good example?
Yes, it's a good example. It's also a good example in the sense that as a rice miller, you might not just need to buy paddies, but you also need to expand yourself in terms of machineries and so on. So through good credit history, I think banks they might or they might not ask for more for collaterals, but a good credit history is already a good start to move forward with the bank.
Yes.
And we also have, since we're now having a lot of big banks coming in, the big players. So I think there's plenty of fun there. It just need to have someone who
unleash it,
credit worthy, who is eligible to get that credit from the bank.
So in other words, we're saying that the fund is there, the money is there, but what is the mechanism to give the confidence for the bank to release that money? And that mechanism is the credit bureau.
At the end of the day, the money that bank lend is also deposit from everyone in the economy, from myself,
from us,
So banks must be very careful about who they're lending to, because if this person don't pay back, then we as depositors will not be able to get our money back.
Exactly.
So from our NBC's perspective, we do regulate and oversees the quality of banks' credit portfolio. And this is a very important part of our job, in addition to governance and so on. Bank has to be very careful in that.
I see. Good. Well, this year is an important year for Cambodia. We are chairing the ASEAN. Like I said earlier in my introductory remark, I see a lot of optimism in Cambodia's social growth. There'll be many areas that I think will make the country, achieve its sort of 7%, 8% GDP growth per capita, and for the Prime Minister, it's important that we lower, our poverty line. And more we see that these sectors are so dependent on the banking sector, and I cannot just praise enough the central bank for its supervising role to give that confidence, because we as a normal mortal going to do business every day, we don't have control on, we see a big sign, this big bank, but we don't know what's behind, right? So this is something quite good. For this year, in the banking sector, any major initiative that, aside from the credit bureau, that the central bank is, pursuing?
It's very difficult to predict. I mean, the financial sector is moving so fast everywhere, and it's changing every day. So I can say today that in the short term, we only have the credit bureau, but who knows? Things might change in the financials markets globally, and so regulations will have to move along with that.
This year, the stock exchange will be operating. Any link with the central bank role and the security?
Well, technically, the central bank will be solely supervising banks and microfinance leasing company.
Yes.
The security firm will be under the Stock Exchange Commissions of Cambodia.
Yeah.
But we are working on an MOU where we can, so that we can work closely in supervising those institutions, because there could be contagion effects between these two industries.
Exactly. Yeah. So you know, I mean, you know, we next month, in February, we, you know, our foreign minister would be going to the G20, you know, foreign minister meeting. There's going to be a lot of talk, because this year our prime minister will be invited to the G20. So it's a lot about finance, a lot about banking, a lot about this cross-border transaction, you know. And you know, the financial crisis the last couple of years has not been helpful, you know, in terms of confidence. That's why, you know, again, I'm glad that our central bank is playing that tough supervising role. You know, it's give that sense of confidence. Anyway, we're coming to the end of the program. As you know, 30 minutes, very short. What is your last word? Doesn't have to be one word. It can be a couple of messages. But what do you want the audience to remember from our discussion today?
There's going to be the launch of the credit bureau, which would be very important for everyone in the economy, not just for banks, but also as a client, you would also be affected by this. I mean, and affected in a good way by this credit bureau. So watch out. Also, I think in terms of access to finance, please do go to a financial institution that is regulated by the NBC.
Yes.
We have some sort of control over them. I think it's easier to monitor rather than going to money lender where they're charging a very high interest rate, and you have no mean of challenging them when there is a problem.
Okay. So in other words, due diligence.
Yes.
All right. Good. Well, Serey, it's such a pleasure to have you on this short notice and have this discussion. And let me just say on behalf of the audience, thank you. And
thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks. So, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we, for a short period, we have a glimpse a bit on the prospect of new access to existing funding, which have been sitting there, but with the unleashing, with the opening, the establishment of this new credit bureau Cambodia, you know, the Cambodian businessman, as much as the foreign businessman, will have access to more finance as a result of bank ability to check the credit history of people. That's what I remember from this conversation. But from a larger, you know, policy perspective, I think this establishment of the credit bureau of Cambodia will have a very, very important role in helping securing the necessary, you know, financing to have Cambodia achieve a higher rate of growth, which is the growth from different sectors, aside from the garment, aside from tourism. We see the agriculture sector booming. We see an emergence of SME that is really thriving throughout the city. And with new finance coming on board, you know, with the credit bureau certifying that this borrowing are credit worthy, I can be assured that the next several years will bring a lot of prosperity for this country, particularly in the context of 2015, where Cambodia will be a member of the ASEAN Economic Community. Cambodia need to be ready, our businessmen need to be ready, you know, our company need to be ready. And being ready is one thing, but being ready with secure access to finance will make them much more stronger to be able to deal with this regionalization, this globalization, which is coming to Cambodia, whether we like it, whether we know or not. It's coming. 2015 is coming, and we should be ready. So on that note, I want to say thank you once again to
Thank
Serey.
you.
Thank you to the central bank for their good job, and to the audience. I'll see you next week. Good night.